MMA Boxing Talk here. I just wanted to make a video talking about the UFC Featherweight division, 145 pounds. This division's been backlogged for a very long time because of Conor McGregor. Um, he beat Aldo in 13 seconds, never defended the title, ultimately got stripped of the title, and then they gifted it to Aldo. And I guess if Conor McGregor is out of the 145-pound picture, I'm okay with that because Aldo had, prior to Aldo getting the belt given to him, he had beat Frankie Edgar, who was the number one contender at the time. They fought, so I'm okay with that. And Aldo is the best featherweight on paper anyway. So, um, but now this division, in the next 2 months, we're really gonna find out a lot about the featherweights. Of course, Aldo is fighting Holloway in June. Cannot wait for that fight. I'm really leaning towards Max Holloway. I think it's going to be a great, exciting, striking battle. But I do think Holloway is going to be a handful for Aldo. I don't know. I can really see a lot of people picking Aldo in this fight as well. So it'll be interesting to see the prediction videos leading up to that. But that's in June. In 3 weeks from now, next month in May 13th, UFC 211, we have a great fight. The number 2 ranked guy, Frankie Edgar, is taking on the number 7th ranked guy, Yair Rodriguez. That's a great fight. I think that fight is very important to decide who's going to get the next title shot after Max Holloway versus Aldo. Um, and of course, this past weekend we had Cub Swanson. Beating Artem Lobov. Artem Lobov definitely not really a worthy opponent for Cub Swanson, even though he made a good account of himself in there in the octagon. Lobov won the first round, and he thoroughly lost, but a lot of people I think would have saw it being a lot more lopsided. Maybe Cub going out there and destroying him in a round or two. But Artem, he did his best. Hats off to him. But Cub Swanson looked great. And before that he was coming off of a great win against Duho Troy, which was one of the fights of the year. Cub wants a little bit of a break, but he does have interest in fighting the winner of Aldo versus Holloway. Now here's where it gets interesting because I think Cub could possibly get a title shot, but I think has a few things have to go his way because for one, if Aldo happens to beat Holloway and Frankie Edgar happens to beat Yair Rodriguez, I think then Cub would get a title shot against Aldo. But the thing is if because Frankie Edgar wins and Aldo wins their next fight, I don't think they're gonna make that fight. Edgar and Aldo have fought twice in the last 4 years. So they've fought more recently, and Aldo's won both contests against Frankie Edgar. So I think then they would have Cub Swanson would get his title shot. Um, but of course Max Holloway could win, and if Frankie wins as well, I could see them making Frankie versus Max Holloway. It's a new matchup. It's a fresh matchup. So I think but Frankie has to beat Yair Rodriguez, and that is not going to be easy. Now, if Yair Rodriguez wins, maybe they'll give him the title shot over a guy like Cub Swanson. Um, it's going to be interesting to see. The matchups I like personally would be like Aldo versus Cub Swanson, Aldo versus Yair Rodriguez, um, or a Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Those would be good matchups. Um, I'm really not sure what's going to happen with Cub. I feel he's right there knocking at the door. They might give him Ricardo Lamas. I'm not too sure if they've ever fought. Um, an interesting fight, as much as as much as Anthony Pettis has been, not so. Oh, Ricardo Lamas beat Cub Swanson back in 2011. That wouldn't be a bad matchup to make. Cub Swanson versus Ricardo Lamas. Um, I wouldn't mind that at all. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think the winner of Frankie versus Yair Rodriguez deserves the next title shot. I personally do believe that, but I am not interested in seeing, Frankie Edgar versus Aldo again. Um, I'm speculating a lot. A lot has to happen, but in the next 2 months, we're gonna find out a lot about the featherweights. We're gonna have a much clearer picture of the division. Um, but yeah, I mean, some really good matchups, upcoming. Lots to look forward to. But like I said, I'm leaning towards Max Holloway in that fight against Aldo. I think it'll be a great, great contest. And I am leaning toward with Yair Rodriguez against, to defeat Frankie Edgar. That one's a little. That one's an interesting fight because Frankie definitely is hittable. He's very hittable in there. But he has a lot of experience. I just don't know how many clean shots he can take from Yair Rodriguez, because Yair is going to land those kicks on him. He lands them on everyone. Um, but it's definitely a step up in competition for Yair. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. But I do think, the fact that Frankie's there to be hit, he's not what he once was. He's not in his prime anymore. Yair is just on a heck of a tear, going right for the title. But he's got to win it. He's got to go out and win it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the featherweights here. Two really big fights coming up. Maybe the UFC will make Cub versus Lamas rematch. It's a good matchup, but maybe they, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. That's it for this one. If you like the video, subscribe. Peace.